So if you don't know what it is, it's basically these two. It's okay. It's basically these two separate particles, and for some reason they were one at one point and they split. And it doesn't matter the distance; they will mirror each other. All right, and it doesn't matter the distance.
Yep.
Once
Electrons across space.
Once you make a measurement of the position of one, you automatically know the position of the other, and the information travels instant, faster than the speed of light.
That's how they're talking about creating some form of faster than light travel.
Right.
You have to watch The Expanse.
All right. So what I'm saying, there's information that you have no idea how to even be consciously aware of.
Okay.
So the nature of truth, to me, is dependent on our the objective is dependent on the subjective.
What if the self is purely a fiction? Hume mentioned that self-consciousness is only being aware of fleeting thoughts, fleeting perceptions, and we don't have an impression of the self or thinking substance. We assign identity to people just as we assign identity to things, because we're accustomed to spatiotemporal continuity of an object. Like if we know a tree's there and I come out here, I expect the tree to still be there. And because it's never not been there, I can assume in the future that it will also be there.
Well, so I think that tree has real objectivity, but I think the form that it takes is subjective.
Hume would say that we have an impression of a tree. We
Right.
have a basic sensory experience based on these impressions. We can't include or conclude 100% if there's soul or substance because...
Well, okay, so Hume is assuming that if things can change, that they're not real, but he has a faulty definition of real.
I don't know that he's not saying they're real. He's just not saying
He's saying it's fiction, but you have a bad idea of what... I would say he has a bad idea of what fiction is, because
there are people that don't agree with him, trust me.
Oh, yeah, but he's basically saying... Oh, my God. Like, you're basically trying to refute your own existence. So if you're saying that to me, I don't believe that... What's his name?
Oh, Hume?
Yeah, what's his full name?
David Hume.
Is he currently alive?
No,
I don't believe David Hume exists. I think he's fiction. So that's how I'm going to deal with David Hume's argument. We can go to something else.
You're good. Well, Kant agreed with Hume. He said that identity is not necessarily found in self-consciousness, that the enduring self is not an object of experience, that the self is transcendental. Right. It's something that is necessary condition for anything to possibly be experienced. Basically, that the self is the point zero in the equation. It is the understood value that exists prior to all things.
Mm-hmm. I think he would be more on it. The problem I'm having, and I have this with people that I would consider in my camp of spirituality, there seems to be this very dismissive attitude towards the individual. And kind of like, you'll see it as... You're going to see it expressed in the sciences. So they'll say, like, we're just stardust. We're like a tiny speck on a rock. But we spend all this time and money and effort to study things that we can't even see with our naked eyes. Yeah. So how does size factor into value? That doesn't make any sense, but people throw it out all the time.
Well, we are like grains of sand on a beach. It's just a way of expressing
size relative to
others.
Size does not determine value. We know that.
Well, sure, like Ebola is tiny, but it'll kill you.
Right.
But it's still important to study.
A virus will kill you, but it's tiny. So size has no bearing on importance. And duration has no bearing on importance either, I think, because all we ever have is experience. So if experience doesn't last, it doesn't mean that it wasn't important. When experience ends, you don't say, oh my gosh, what was even the point of that?
Well, right. Kant would argue that the death of a man ends all experience, because you're dead. But because we experience objects, we must have a unified consciousness that exists outside of these objects that combines our impressions, like our understanding that tree must be there, into a perception.
Yes.
So you would...
I would agree with that. However, I would dispute with the point that the perception is not real. Given the nature of reality, and that's the only way it could be, how can it not be real? Now that we know about science... See, Kant didn't know about quantum physics.
No.
I don't fault him. But...
how do we know anything is real? And it goes back to that question. He's working with his
Okay, well, if it's that point, if you're saying how do we know anything is real, then just pack up.
No, I still think it's
No,
important.
I think pack up. I mean, okay,
You still have to ask.
what is the point of experiencing all this if you're going to deny your own experience?
I don't know, man. It's to find out what it actually means.
Okay, but I think you would help yourself if you didn't deny your own existence.
I think it boxes you into a corner to accept what you accept. I feel like not saying
You don't have to accept anything, but this is the one irrefutable fact that you exist because you're experiencing it.
I exist because I doubt. Cogito ergo sum, sure, but
No, not because you doubt, because you experience it.
well, that would be a different form of.
It would be
Sure.
another form of maybe saying that, I exist because I doubt. Maybe that's another way of saying it.
Well, you would be an empiricist because of your need for sensory input, whereas a rationalist would state simply because I am able to think and doubt, that means I exist. They're not necessarily. You don't have to have just one of these thought processes. You can interpret.
I am not saying that their thought process isn't valid. However, what I'm saying is their conclusion is faulty.
You don't have to accept, but that's why I don't like to box myself into one thing. I want to make sure I'm open to anything.
But I mean, you could
see
what I'm saying. I mean, if you're driving a car, are you just like, man, is this even real? Is this car real? Like, you're doing it. You're experiencing the thing, and then you're questioning if it's real or not. What do we like?
Well,
who would be the better arbiter or delineator if what's real?
Prove to me that you are not a brain in a vat that is having this world given to you in some VR experience. Can you prove that your experiences are real, or are they just something that are provided to you by an outside source? Like, we could be in a virtual reality because it's all we've ever known. The brain in the vat question asks, is it real if it's in, like, VR? Or is it only real if it's out of VR? If they're both essentially the same. Super fucking cool.
Well, yeah, because they're different manifestations. They're different forms of reality.
But if we can't prove that we are either inside or outside, that's the question. Like, if reality is just a hologram, right? If reality is just a construct of a computer program, then is it reality? Because we don't think our games are real.
Our games... Okay, so this is
it's good though.
This is why I think
it's a good question.
Think about memes, right? So what I think is happening right here. So what I think a meme in even the biologist who coined this term, Dawkins, right?
Okay.
He said it's an idea. It's a mutually shared idea that people kind of gather around and mutually understand. But I actually think that's a spiritual thing that's going on. Because I think the meme is what you would say it exists in the 3D. It's like one idea. So people that gravitate towards this idea, they're all connected at this one point, and they all get it, right? Because they're in on it, because they're all connected to this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And they will respond and mirror each other. Like you notice within political movements that after a while, people say the same things over and over again. Why? Like verbatim almost. There's like almost no variation. They're captivated by this meme, this idea, and they all express it the same. And this is what Carl Jung was saying when he said, people don't have ideas, ideas have people.
So, let me get into existentialism again, because I really want to narrow this down. He said there's no such thing as human nature, that there are no standards for self-identity, and no correct choices, only choices. That even trying to say that, following this meme it's not necessarily correct or incorrect. It is just simply a choice.
I think it's so you have to learn how your experience will be. So even if you say, hey man, it's not a good idea to not have a bank account and just carry around cash, you can understand that, but then you experience not having a bank account and just carrying everything around in cash and see that it doesn't work for you, that you finally discover that doesn't work for you, but somebody else could do the same thing and they figure that it actually works for them better.
Mm-hmm. We don't simply find moral principles upon which we should act. We choose the moral principles through our action.
Yes, so here's what I think is what's happening en masse in societies. A lot of people are not getting past the instructions that they learned from their childhood. They're not learning to think like adults. They're not learning to hold two contradicting ideas at the same time and not letting it break their brain. Because you got to realize, you can have two different statements, right? You can say, hey, this glass is upright. But if I'm laying on my side, but you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, the glass is upright. But if I'm hanging upside down, it's like, no, it's not. It's upside down. Right?
Sure.
We're both right. We're both perceiving the same information differently.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like you and I disagree every once in a while.
Right, but
that's
an adult thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
That's an adult way to think, and a lot of people don't get past. No, you can't talk in the classroom. Right. You're not allowed to talk in the classroom, but they don't go over. Hey, if it's an emergency or you need to do this. Not a lot of critical thought is taught in schools.
That is true, and we end up falling into a fucking two-party system in which you have to.
It's completely polarized. It's really as simple as my thing is good, your thing is bad, therefore I am good and you're bad. And I know that sounds very rudimentary, but that's literally what's going on the internet, and this is why I don't engage in political discussions on the internet anymore.
So, could we get into more into Sartre?
Yeah, let's hit another brief talk real quick, and then we'll end this because it's getting long.
Okay, because there are no set standards for people. There were two things. Sartre says we don't just look at who the person is now. We look at their projection into the future. So we have the facticity, the facts of a person's life so far. But we also have their transcendence, or a person's projection into the future. Mm-hmm. So it's not just that he hurt somebody, it is what was his intent. He hurt somebody that was going to kill 1,000 people. We're looking at not just who the person is now, but their meaning, their intent, their future goals and plans, and that is important in existentialism as well, because there is no set standard for people.
So a standard means that you're going to happen upon where you need to be, but where you need to be may not be where other people need to be.
Right. And the only way to fail in existentialism is to live in, forgive me,
that's untrue to yourself.
Mauvaise foi. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The refusing to accept facts and actions as relevant, or deciding that facts and actions don't count towards your self-identity. Mm. If you refuse those two, then you're not acting in accordance with your true self. You're acting in bad faith.
Yeah.
Lying to yourself is the quickest way to say all that.
Well, if you think about it, humans are mostly potentiality. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's why we are often scared of other humans, because we often perceive them as we can't perceive them as chaotic. So that's why we wind up dressing the same. You know what to expect. This is why we have customs. We hold open the doors for people. We show goodwill. We know what to expect. It's only when people break out of the social norms that it's perceived as a danger, but it might not even be. Like, I know I appear eccentric to other people, which may think that I'm not friendly or antisocial. And I can be a little antisocial sometimes, but that's just not because I'm mean. I just, people wear me out. I'm an introvert.
I can't blame you.
Right. So people might look at someone that's eccentric and think that they're not friendly, but that might not be at all.
Right.
So,
outward appearance may not necessarily mean the definition of the internal.
Right. And realizing that if most of you is not realized potential, and that's the case for all human beings, even high achievers, then I can't really buy an argument that what you would say your true identity is based on your choices.
We'll follow up next week.
Sure, man. We can do this as a weekly thing. We can even name it its own series. We can talk about it.
Comment, subscribe, let us know what you think.
You already know who it is. We're supposed to do this at the beginning of the video.
We didn't even do that.
I'm going to start doing that because all the videos my kids watch is like, it's your boy. You already know who it is. Hit that like and subscribe button. Yeah, they all say that like over and over again, so I can do.
Tell us what you think, though. I don't know how many people are watching these, but it would be cool to hear what your input is. It's
It is. I am glad because I am seeing more people interested in this, and people in my day-to-day lives, because I Uber and I have conversations with people, and sometimes it does open up to the spiritual and the scientific, and different things like that.
I send these videos to a few people.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, here's another good saying, and we'll end it. People meet your expectations. So if we expect for people to be interested, I think they will be.
Let's hope.
All right, man. Cool. All right, peace out, guys.